Everybody, and welcome back to Apostate Weekly. I'm your host, James.
And I'm Ryan.
And I'm your extra host, Jonathan.
And
Welcome.
let's roll that intro. All right.
It's so good to have you here, Jonathan.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to see you in the screen instead of in the comments for once. So, especially since we stream to your channel every week now.
Good to have your face on it.
Yeah.
That's right. You get to be the face of your channel for a change.
Woohoo!
For once. Good morning, Jay.
Hey, Jay. So, not a very busy week news-wise again, but
some weird big cases. Like
weird
there's not a
big
lot.
cases.
Like there's not a lot of stories per se, but I mean the Supreme Court stuff is huge. This is going to have big impacts.
Yes, it is.
We don't want it to be too busy.
Yeah, honestly, I'd prefer it not to be. I guess it makes a good show, but I think America could use a slow news day, quite honestly.
Yeah, so could the whole world. Morning, Doc.
Exactly. Who wants to go first this morning?
Actually, I was going to see if Jonathan wanted to go first, being he's our guest today.
Him on the spot. Make him work.
Put you on the spot. Earn your keep.
Okay. Well, since I was sort of a last-minute addition, I only had one thing to bring out. It's a little reminder that the Public Information Department is still doing their thing, and old Robert Hendriks is out there trying to make the cult look appealing to the masses. So there is a video that was posted 2 weeks ago from a news station in South Carolina. So I was thinking we could take a look at that, if that's okay, James.
Yeah, we absolutely can. Let me get it pulled up here for you. It's about a 4-minute video, but it's from Robert Hendriks from the Public Information Department that we're going to watch here.
From the P. Diddy.
Tell me if it's big enough or if you need it bigger.
Maybe a little bit bigger.
And we are.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's
actually the national spokesperson for the Jehovah's Witness. And today we're going to talk, Robert, about interactive Bible study. And let's talk a little bit about how this has evolved over the years in your organization.
It's amazing to talk about an interactive Bible study, the oldest book known to man, right? And we're talking about using new technologies in order to understand the book. And that's really what it's about. Jehovah's Witnesses have been the largest printing organization on the planet for years. Our Watchtower magazine has 80 million copies that are printed. It's the most printed magazine in the world. About a decade ago, we began to move everything to technological tools so that we can meet learners where they're at. And this interactive Bible study program is not simply a book where you read the paragraph and you answer a question. It now relates to really having a student think, see, dramatizations that are embedded, worksheets that are embedded, activities, fewer words, more pictures, more videos, more worksheets that will help them to really learn in a way that people learn today rather than when learning 20 or 30 years ago.
Right. Well, I think that's so important that you touched on that. Obviously, kids are learning very differently now, and since going through the pandemic, even more so, being online even more. And so talk to us a little bit about how your program works and how somebody can get involved in it.
The program is very simple. You can go right on your own, go to jw.org and go to the Enjoy Life Forever And that's the interactive Bible study program. It can be downloaded on a iOS, on Android, on a web browser. And what basically it is it's meant to be a conversation, right? So it's meant to ask a question, have some thought, have a video that provides a dramatization. Maybe it's a modern day dramatization of a situation, or Bible characters, Moses, Jesus, Joshua, all are featured in this publication. There are hundreds of videos, hundreds of activities, and they can then begin to see how the Bible relates from a topical standpoint to their life. Bible study is unimportant if it doesn't relate to who I am and what I do now. And this not only reaches the mind, it can also reach the heart.
Talk to us a little bit about what you've seen, maybe some stories of what you've seen in people getting from this, and how can somebody get this? Is there a cost for it? And tell us about that. No
cost. And what we have seen is, frankly, that there's probably a reluctance to go from this book. This book has got gravitas, right? The Bible is an amazing book, but it's difficult to understand. How do you take this into an outline form that's topical? Well, once you get into those topical outline forms, along with videos and dramatizations, you're addicted, because all of a sudden you're learning about the Bible in ways that make it practical for being able to apply today. And that's really the point. When you reach the heart, you affect behavior. Behavior is the key to changing your life. And we have seen, among many, including ourselves, including myself, how this has been able to change our lives for the better. And that's what we want to share with our neighbors.
And so if somebody is interested in learning more about this program or any of your other programs here in the Lowcountry or anywhere, how do they do so?
JW.org is the most translated website in the world. They can go to that. They can find a person, request a visit, or just use the myriad of resources on JW.org in order to learn about the Bible, how it can apply to themselves, their family, their workmates, their loved ones. It's free, but it also is powerful, and we're offering to everyone.
Well, it's always good to see you, Robert. Thank you so much for being.
All right.
Yes.
So.
Kill it.
Yikes.
Fire.
So yeah, so I asked Jonathan earlier this morning, where was that from? And because I was kind of curious where that news broadcast was at. And it's funny because
YouTube.
No, I mean the news station. Like, what part of the country is it from, or world?
Oh, what part of the country?
And it's actually in South Carolina, and it's near like the southern part of it on the coast. So what's interesting about that, hey Martin, how's it going, man? Is from what I've been reading on Reddit, the speculation, nothing confirmed, mind you, speculation, but that's where Tony Morris III is at, somewhere in that area over there.
Oh.
So I think it's interesting that the Public Information Department is broadcasting stuff in that area where he might be
residing right now.
Yeah.
I am so curious about Tony. Like, I'm surprised that nobody has paid a detective or something to find him and see what he's up to.
If you're listening, Tony, we'd love to hear your thoughts. So,
Tony, why don't you just come on the show and tell us what you're up to? What's happening? How you feeling? Yeah.
We'll have a drink together, Tony.
There you go.
Ugh, he'd love that. Hey,
I got mine.
If you're talking, I'm buying.
So the reason
he might make you go broke, Ryan.
Can't afford his number of drinks. The reason I wanted to bring this to people's attention is because we can kind of forget that they're still out there doing these puff pieces, and our channels are niche, right? So we're only going to reach so many people. But when you're talking about, the morning news station in your area, they're going to reach a lot of people. So, if we can contact these news stations and say, hey, maybe have a little equal time here for the other side, it wouldn't hurt.
You know what? That is a really good idea. And I have thought about doing that before. I've thought about reaching all of those YouTube channels that love to put Hendriks on, because he's gone on several. I've seen him on that channel before, whichever news station it is. But I think they're like affiliates, just like the local, like obviously South Carolina, wherever this took place. And I have thought about doing that. Maybe I really should attempt to reach out and see if they reply, or if they say, "Oh, this costs money." Well, okay, how much money does it cost? How much I got to pay to get on there? I'll pay it and go on there and tell you about people.
Well, you might also be able to appeal to their sense of journalism as well, because
Yeah,
they're
maybe.
platforming one side of the argument, and you can say, well, if you really are a news source, you should be a balanced news source. So that means you should platform both sides of the argument. Now,
Absolutely.
again,
Absolutely.
you might be right. They might charge you, so you might have to find out how much. Because I know these are paid promotions that they are doing. They're paying
Yeah.
to get themselves on the news.
Which is why I wonder if the station is even open to it, or hey, they don't care. They'll take any money. I mean, if
Probably.
anything, it could be better for them, because then maybe the JWs want to come on even more often to try to defeat all the negativity if we were to go on these stations and do the exact same
I
thing.
think
It must
that'd be
nice
interesting
to have the money.
to find out and see what it does cost. Because if anything, I think we could pool together the resources of the XJW community, and we might not be able to do it on every news station like the governing body can, but if we start putting it on several news stations here and there, the more the merrier. As much opposition as we can get out there, the better.
Yeah, the more coverage. I agree. Thank you for bringing that.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, especially in those markets that they're using, target those markets specifically that have him on there, and then have the counter on that market as well, not just any market. So you'd have to be strategic about how we do it.
Yeah.
And I think it does really bring a good point. There is a lot of religious awakening right now, and people are still searching. Like, they've not deconstructed, so they still believe, and that's fine. If you in the audience believe, like, there's nothing wrong with that. Unfortunately, people, when they leave a high control religion, they still don't have the wherewithal to understand they should be researching organizations. They just think that it's safe because it's directed by God, but that is not the case. And they'll just march into these religious organizations like little lambs and get slaughtered going into the JWs. But I think there's a possibility they could be fishing for these people who are waking up to these documentaries, the IBLP, Shiny Happy People, LDS, Mormon, all that kind of stuff. So that's a good point. It's a very good point.
And I've heard it mentioned too that they like to, seems that to me they like to target people of color as well. So
yes,
even
they
in
do.
Even in that little bit that they had, they were talking about the racism and that sort of thing. So they were even putting, like, they had to pick something, and they specifically chose that to put in there.
Speaking of targeting an audience, that actually segues very well into a story I was going to talk about this morning.
We did that on purpose.
Yeah, I know. We planned this out, everybody.
True.
So the next one I was going to share it's a story out of Utah, and it's talking about their prison ministry, and specifically the Jehovah's Witnesses take Bible to the largest gated community, prison. Talk about a captive audience,
Sorry. That was a good
I'm
one.
sorry. I really raised the bar on that joke, didn't I?
The iron
really
bar.
locked it down.
That's right.
Anyway.
And in case you were wondering, I do use my cell to do my video.
We believe you.
You're so hilarious. You're going to start a riot.
I know, right?
Oh, Lord. This is against the law.
Well, when the bodies start hitting the floor, then we'll know something's gone down, okay?
Oh Lord, yes.
So, and this is just one of those things that I think is just it's gross in how they go about doing their ministry, because I'm sure both you and Ryan can relate to when we were witnesses, how there's always this saying that we're looking for those who are sighing and groaning and, basically trying to find people at their worst to preach
Right,
to,
down and out.
to look for those opportunities. And how much worse can you get than somebody in prison?
Oh Lord. Oh Lord.
And so you think about the tactics they're using to go in and preach to people who are at their absolute worst, around absolute worst of the worst of society on top of all that. And then you're going in there with this message. And this is one of the things that they have no shame about either, because they don't care which part of the prison population they're preaching to. So that means they can be preaching to somebody as simple as an armed robber to pedophiles and murderers.
Yeah.
Yep. Anybody is the target audience.
And especially if you think about the problem that the organization has with pedophiles among their ranks, and you go and preach to more pedophiles in these prisons and they come in and join the religion. Now you're just harboring even more of them inside. And hey, thanks for joining us, Meth Pig. Take it easy.
Have a good day.
And now they're just going to harbor more pedophiles inside and not report them the next time they do something.
Boy, this is a slippery slope, man. I tell you what, I absolutely think that people first off, the prison system's effed in the B.
Yes.
It's horrific. It's privatized, which means that they will just arrest people to keep the beds filled. Like, they have numbers they have to keep up for their shareholders and whatnot. So, right. So how can you, oh Lord, it's hard to say, like, oh, discriminate them. They're all criminals. They all suck. They're all disgusting. They've done something bad. They need to rot. To, okay, this is an unfair system. People deserve to have communication, religion, if that makes them feel good, whatever. Little comforting things that keep them alive, whatever. But there's also some sickos in there that really should be in there forever, ever, ever, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say whether they should be alive or not. I don't know their story, but this is the kind of people that they are witnessing to who, I mean, depending on their crime, could eventually be released and walk right back into that Kingdom Hall like nothing ever happened, and no one would ever be the wiser unless they obviously spill the beans.
Yeah.
But it's scary. It's really frightening to think that they could just be bringing some really bad people into the congregation, all for the name of, look who we changed in the name of Jehovah. See what he can do.
Yeah.
No, that's really maybe not the best example.
And I'll tell you, I used to live in an area where my dad and other elders went to the prisons to preach back in the day. Now I used to live right near the Florida State Prison area, and
okay.
And we even had somebody who they wanted to comment at the Watchtower lesson every week, but obviously they're in prison. They can't call in, they can't listen in. So what they would do is they would write it down and somebody would read their comment at the meeting during the week.
Really?
And yeah. So and if you think about that, it's normalizing having those people with you later on if they could get out of prison.
Yeah.
So you've heard their comments for so long, and now you're going to just be more welcoming to them because, oh, I've been hearing your comments the whole time, yada, yada, yada. We don't know if that person's rehabilitated or not, and like,
yeah, they're not.
Yeah, and with the overpopulation of our prison systems, most likely not. So, you're inviting these dangerous people into your kingdom halls around your children, around your families. It's just sick practice to do, really is.
And to add to that thought, if you are a person like that, you have to register, and people in your community are going to know that. But in that kingdom hall that you attend twice a week, you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. The people who are actually in close proximity are the ones who probably have no idea. But then anybody else who checks, like maybe the sexual registration, like predator registration, whatever, they might know. But I mean, what if the guy that he goes knocking on the door doesn't know, and he starts a study with that family? Like, there's so many bad things that could happen because you're presenting this person as, I don't know, they come to the door as if they are different, and they're just not. I mean, I don't mean to be rude, but they're not. It's just religion in a different package. But because it's presented with a dressed up person and a smile on their face and a good promise, it sounds legit. Well, not to me, but to that
Right.
kind of person, it's somebody who loves Jesus, and you've got a promise for me, and you can show me a paradise on earth, man. I'm telling you, that is big. That was really one of the biggest things that kept my family and keeps my family in, is that promise for the paradise.
Yeah. And if you got somebody in prison and they think of paradise and all that, it's freedom. It's freedom from being behind those bars. So, I mean, and using those tactics is manipulating those people to join your cult.
Mm-hmm. And again, like I'm not saying it's wrong to share religious stuff with people in prisons. I think there's far better things that you could be doing to help people in prisons, and religion really shouldn't be the crutch that helps save you. But I think there should be a way to vet these people, and protect your congregation. I think above all, that should be more important. The sanctity of the congregation versus trying to bring in a sheep that might not be a good fit. Like, you'll do everything, fight tooth and nail to bring in this person who we know has a bad track record. But then 17-year-old me, I've slept with somebody, boy, I'm fucking terrible, right? Compared to this guy, I'm effing terrible. Like, it's just,
well, you are, Ryan. It's so true. We know what you are.
I know, damn it. I know. Trying to redeem myself.
I gotta be faster because I was gonna say it and you beat me to
it. Damn it. Don't gang up on me.
So I'm the fast and he's the furious.
That's all right. All right.
All right, Ryan, what do you got for us this week?
All right. So what I have, if any of you have been paying attention to the Supreme Court ruling that have come down, it's pretty scary if you ask me. So I'll just tell you about this case if you haven't heard about it. But there's this woman. What's her name? I apologize. I forget. I think it's Lisa. I can find out. Lori Smith. Excuse me. Her name is Lori Smith. I do have it written down. She brought a case to the Supreme Court. She's a web designer. And she said that she didn't want to have to make a web page for a gay couple. And the Supreme Court heard this case and decided that we are allowed to discriminate against people because of their orientation. And it's not just sexual, like you can discriminate against religious, race, etc., poor, disabled, like you name it. Like, the door is now open, the floodgates are now opened for anybody to be discriminated against if it goes against their religious beliefs. Man, I tell you what, religion is something. So the Supreme Court ruled that you have the freedom to refuse service and discriminate against people because of their differences to you. The ruling doesn't just impact laws prohibiting discrimination based on sexual orientation. It could also affect laws preventing discrimination based on race, sex, nationality, disability, age, gender identity, among whatever category that could be seen as different from me. Oh, you have an Eagles hat on? F the Eagles, I'm not serving you. I know it sounds so like freaking stupid, but what else could we discriminate against? By not distinguishing between these provisions, the court has disrupted the longstanding consensus that public businesses must comply with non-discriminatory practices and laws. And then they ruled against, what's the word? It starts with a
affirmative action.
Thank you. I don't know why I have all my notes here, but I didn't actually write the term. But so like the Supreme Court is going ham right now, just chopping at all these safety nets that, I mean, specifically benefit me. Affirmative action helps people like me who are, not a minority group, a marginalized group. So people of color, women, again, disabled. If you have a diverse workplace, it's likely that you have a place where you're going to be paid better, treated better. They'll have better policies, just a better work environment, because you're adding all these different perspectives, ideas from a vast people from every different, nationality, whatever, instead of just, no offense, but white dudes.
Yeah.
This is really bad for our country. And I don't know if y'all know, but this is mostly in part because of, what's his name? Clarence Thomas. He's a very smart man, but people assumed because he was in a good law school. I don't know if it was Harvard. I apologize. I forget. But because he went to a good law school, the people like us looked at him and thought that he got into the law school because of affirmative action. And that pissed him off because he got in because of his great mayor, right? So he's mad because people perceived him to be affirmative action. He didn't want that, which again, there's nothing wrong with diversifying your workspace, your college, what have you. So this is all coming down to his personal opinion of what affirmative action is. So it's really just messed up.
And you got to remember that this country has very systematically been discriminatory towards racists, towards women, and communities, and our entire economy has been built off of that discrimination. And laws like this were to help erode that away a little bit. And that's what people don't seem to understand. These laws are meant to help make things more equal for people, more equal opportunity. And with that being gone, you're just dialing the clock back again to the 1950s, like last year when they got rid of Roe v. Wade. Now, affirmative action. We're going backwards here. Pretty soon, it's going to be civil rights are going to be going away. We're going to have separation of colors again and everything. It's going to just, it's going the wrong direction here.
I'm afraid. No lie. I feel bad for people who are in different positions than me. That's for sure. I truly do. I've seen like the backlash where people are now like putting up signs in their businesses saying they won't serve Christians, and like I think it's hilarious. Maybe something will come of it. Maybe people will recognize the seriousness of it and like, oh, this really could go bad. We have to have some kind of level of decorum, right? We shouldn't be having people come into our businesses and asking like, hey, what's between your legs? Who the F cares? Money is money, honey, and money talks. Let's just do business. Can't we keep it professional? Why do you have to be involved in what's in my crotch? So it's just really weird, man. Stuff is wild.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Not only wild, but wildly inappropriate too. Because that's what they're going to be doing. I guarantee you that's what it's going to come down to at some point. What's between what do you carry in your pants? Are you what you were assigned at
They're gonna
birth.
check your card. They're going to want to start checking people's identification for stuff like that. For
Yeah.
who knows? It could come down to clothes at some point. I mean, if it were up to Christians, not all Christians, I understand, you know who I'm talking to. Like, I hate having to do that like delineation thing, but if it were up to them, that would be the case. Like, you would toe the line, even though clothing doesn't have gender. According to Christians, clothing has gender, and Jesus in a dress would be stoned to death today. But hey,
Yeah.
what can I
Well,
say?
if you actually look at some of the old pictures of presidents when they were kids, they were actually in dresses. U.S. presidents as kids were in dresses because that's what they put people in. If you've ever looked at historical pictures at all. So,
Oh yeah,
you know, it's just
all the
ridiculous that
gods.
they, and if I was watching a documentary one time, they were saying it was like really in the 80s when everything went from pink as girls, blue as boys.
Yeah.
Before that, nobody really cared.
No, boys used to be dressed in pink. Like, it was
Yeah,
actually a common.
It used to be a popular color for boys back then.
Yeah. Because
You just got
like, I think that we've modernized color so much. Like, color is nature. Like, colors are nature. They're not attached to any kind of binary or normative. Like, that's all colonization practices.
Yeah.
No indigenous people do that inherently. This is something that's been created that we now follow as some kind of, we think, natural rule with human society. It's just not that way. Like, what about all the Roman emperors, and what about all the gods and their statues with their robes, long dress robes, and it's
I know.
kilts. I mean, kilts.
Their whole way of thinking is just so effed up. It's ridiculous because they want to associate things and try to put meaning to things that aren't there. Grow up already.
You make life so difficult, and you're spinning your wheels so much, worrying about everything that's wrong, that you really don't make any effective changes on the things that you could impact if you put your focus there, instead of worrying about all these nitpicky, silly ideas that are nowhere found in the Bible, that are just products of dudes with serious control issues. It's just serious issues that you're making these things a problem.
Yeah, exactly. And it all really boils down to what's that, Jonathan?
I said what she said.
What she said.
She said.
Well, I was going to say, it really boils down to, like, I think of it in terms of the Bible, because God was really petty over stupid things. Don't eat shellfish, don't wear mixed fabrics, but slavery's okay, genocide's okay, murder's okay, but you want to have all these little other petty things that aren't okay. And that's exactly what these people are doing. Those same exact things.
Yep. They can't see themselves being reflected. They don't see it because of their indoctrination. They're unable to critically think and connect those dots. Just can't happen for them. It's so wild. I mean, I used to be that way, so I'm not. I try to be understanding of where people are and meet them where they are, but it's super difficult.
So, but anyways, that's going to wrap it up for the show today. So, want to thank you, Jonathan, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Do it again sometime.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd love to have you on more often, Jonathan.
Yeah, it's just a timing thing. I happened to be at work earlier today, so I could make it work.
Awesome.
Thank you so
I hear
much.
all that heavy equipment going on in the background.
Yeah, I thought I'd find a nice
quiet spot.
Quiet spot in the middle of construction, apparently. It was not that way just before it started.
But I've been hearing the whole show, but it's not a big deal. It's all good. But anyways, we'll do this again. And to all of our viewers, thank you for joining us this week. please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe and share if you can. And hit the little bell notification to know when we're on air every week. And we will see you all next week at Apostate Weekly.
Apostate your way.
Have a great week, everybody.
Listen, obey, be blessed.
Bye.